remember that they are changing my voice. Today is the 10-year anniversary of the greatest martial art challenge ever possible that happened on December 20th, 2013. This has given me the greatest martial art victory ever possible, as I've been fumed and poisoned for many years, so there's no way to truly beat me anymore. And it's been, many years, and it's not even the first martial art challenge. We'll get into that. One famous quote that's famous in the PSYOP units that are persecuting me is, they couldn't beat me even though they were covertly drugging me. All they have accomplished is covertly bugging me. And they became all the inhabitants of the earth, but my immediate family, really my parents are blameless, and all these inhabitants of the earth on the spectrum, as they didn't obey God through me. So they sought to benefit from it, and sought to avoid the responsibility to God and to me, to rally and obey God through me, and to carry the cross, which is the point of life. Okay, so they could argue perspectives and all this, but that's stupid. Obviously the point of life comes first, and it's clear, and I've overkilled that in my videos. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of background on the challenge and the timeline, where it fits in on the timeline of the sabotage campaign against me, which I have 23 plus witnesses on record that testify that yes, it's real, and you could tell that everything's on the up and up. Okay, so when we consider brain power, mind, body, soul, and spirit, okay, and my life of being blameless, walking in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice through persecution, we know that the challenge takes on new meaning. Well, if that's considered the population of the world now versus, say, a couple hundred years ago, so not that long ago on the human timeline, there was less than 1 billion people on the planet. Now there's almost 8 billion people on the planet, and we've reached a time where no other challenge, right, is valid. No challenge that occurs after my top martial arts challenge was valid, right? They're just sports challenges, so on and so forth. And because of tech, breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains, they can never one-up my challenge. Okay, so it's clearly, regardless of your religion, the greatest martial art challenge ever possible. They gave me the greatest martial art victory ever possible. Okay, so long ago, and when I was 16 or so, I made songs where I said, females want a ball and ignore the deeper call. Y'all threw stress at me. And I had other lines that were similar to this that reflected my deep loyalty to God, etc. And I have that on record on some of my channels. Also, I went to boarding school and because I scored the top 1 percentile in the SSAT and got into boarding school, and I don't care about book smarts, but it's just part of the story. Then when I come back from boarding school in 1997, I won a Taekwondo trophy and became a grand champion. And there was, then shortly after, I was sent to reform school, and that's not a coincidence. A lot of people who work with the government and for the government verified that to me, right? Several people, okay, that I was sent to reform school, and the behavior modification wilderness program is part of a kind of psychological operation against me, because I was this rising star, right? When I was a kid, I was identified as a gifted child. Again, I don't care about book smarts and their little test process of doing that. I'm sure a lot of people were, but that factors in. They believe in early identification, prevention, and intervention. They're trying to prevent the rise of the top martial arts ever possible and God's son. And where it matters at most, they have not. See, again, so I went to these programs, right? After the Taekwondo trophy in 97, I was sent to reform school, and then a behavior modification wilderness program when I was kicked out of that for running away twice and smuggling weed into the program in Idaho, right? I did all this while brokenhearted, and I carved a broken heart on the back of my forearm under my wrist with the metal on a pencil in a hospital in Idaho. Okay, so it was clear, and I still have the scar to this day, that my problem was having a broken heart and my parents being overprotective and reacting to me smoking marijuana. And maybe the government, I don't know, maybe the government had told them to send me there. I mean, the evidence strongly suggests that. Okay, one way or another, they influenced them, While they were messing up my brain and body with toxic drugs at the camp and hospital, etc., I was still training martial arts, right? Now, when I come back, this is also interesting. I came back tougher, and I trained my own martial arts. I switched from doing taekwondo and kung fu to doing my own martial arts. I started, making moves myself. And in late 98 or 99, somewhere around that time, I was in a dramatic car accident where initially it was going 100 miles an hour, but then it kind of turned around on the freeway in like a weird kind of circle shape, like half circle shape, and started flipping over. It flipped over like 6-7 times, several times in the air. And there was 5 people in the car, and then I'm driving. Not driving, but I was in the back middle seat. Strangely enough, I didn't often ride in the back middle seat. It was like maybe the only time I could ever remember riding the back middle seat, kind of thing. And we hit in the mountain going head on, and this dust and glass came, and so somehow I got a cut on my head. I had to get staples for it, and I had a serious back injury. Okay, so evidence would suggest, and a lot of these people have testified, that their records show that the government set up that event, okay, in a very, using technology. And that's a story for another day, okay. That's what people are saying, and the evidence does suggest that, but I'm going to go ahead and say I don't know that for sure, but the evidence is so almost close to 100% sure. Okay, the way everything happened, the patterns, the doctors that were there, who resembled who, the way it all came together. Okay. All right. You see, I was an unbeatable martial artist with my own system at the time, already when I was around that time, 17 or so. Okay, so fast forward to 2009. I quit alcohol on May 6th, and on October 31st, 2009, I made my first official YouTube video, and it was about the European elite, Eurocentric scientists in both groups, social clubs, lying about Egypt, especially the role of black Africans in ancient Egypt. At that time, I was about to turn 28, okay, and I had purchased various martial art weapons and a Knights Templar replica sword to practice with. In 2010, I went back to college. I started training martial arts more intensely. I put an emphasis, okay, on my intense heterosexual African martial arts, which I was looking for the root of these other martial arts. I was looking for the African connection in their movements that was more suited for my body and spiritual system and way of thinking, and so on and so forth. Okay. I would eventually graduate in 2015 through extreme sabotage when I went back to college, and covert drugging. Okay. So in 2010 again, so again, I was in college 2010, 2015 when I was making a lot of the videos I was making, and I was getting good grades, and I eventually graduate, right? So it's not like some people try to pretend like I'm crazy. They know the gaslighting they're doing, and so on and so forth. But how could I, be crazy when I was not only beating every challenger, but I was going to college, right? People were afraid to accept my challenge. It wasn't until 2015 that they accepted. And during that year, I was going to college. So I was going to college and training martial arts. First challenger comes, I beat him almost flawlessly, right? And I was fumed and drugged. And I had on dress socks on wet grass, and he had on shoes when we were sparring at the park. And I have that, on video and so on and so forth. Okay. And of course, they edited that video to reduce the kind of how impressive it is, because they're fanatically trying to control who looks up to who these days and things like that. Okay. All right. In 2010, there was a government plant living on the property causing trouble, and eventually he gets evicted. The police take his side. It's a big mess. It's a long story. Maybe I'm doing another video. In 2011, I was set up to go to the psych ward. And, this is key here, right? It's a long story. I've told the story before. Okay, those martial artists who later on admitted that, they couldn't beat me, and this is part of why I was set up, you know what I'm saying? And the police played stupid about the fact that the lock was broken and the food that was on the ground, and I was hungry and pissed off with keys in my hand and so on and so forth. Okay, so they just kind of took, my parents' word, or my dad and my older brother's word for what had happened. Okay, so I wasn't on my best behavior that day, but I was clearly innocent of any wrongdoing, and they played stupid about the lock and the chicken wing and wanted to pretend like I'm crazy or something. Okay, and they admit, some people admitted that they're wrong.